There is a secret that most pro athletes, elite CEOs, and high performers all know. They all have a group of world-class coaches working for them to help them optimize their potential. At SuperAthlete Radio, our goal is to provide you with the caliber of world-class coaches and guests to help you unlock your potential, dominate your industry, and dominate your life. Let's get better today.
So the reason we started this episode is because we had a conversation about how the world is so harped on people wanting to be divisive for clickbait. So I first wanted to start with what do you think about this new era in time and with everybody just wanting to take a side or wanting you to choose a side. And I know you faced a couple of those kind of pushback because you tend to be the person who's like, hey, it's not always black and white. It depends.
It depends. Yeah, so I totally understand it from a marketing perspective because you get with the tribal energy that is so prevalent right now. But if you're trying to really reach high performance, peak performance, then there is no specific diet. There is no specific training style that is going to guaranteed work for you. So the answer really is it all depends based on your genes, based on your specific goals. So that's why you're not going to hear me saying you got to eat keto or you got to go vegan or you got to do HIIT training because that is helpful for people who, if you're 50 pounds overweight, keto is going to help you guaranteed for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Or if you're looking for a new workout plan, high intensity interval training is a great way to increase muscle mass and burn body fat. But with what we're doing, we want to get deeper and we want to know really what's going on with each client that comes in the door.
Yeah.
So then we can tailor them to really take the guesswork out of it.
Okay. I love that. That's why Super Athlete is so personalized, to the T, to the blood, with all the gene testing and the blood testing and the personalized meal plans and the personalized workout plans.
Side note, I eat a lot of meat,
Yeah.
so all vegans must die.
It's part of my my protocol.
Yes.
And you go vegan, protocol die. Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty divisive take. I like that.
All right, we'll put that one on the reel.
Yes. So speaking of divisive takes, I understand it as well as what you were saying. It's good for marketing, but from a consumer perspective, I think for someone who was brought up in the age of the internet, you want answers now. So if someone's hey, it depends, it's immediately I get a visceral reaction. What do you mean? What's the answer? But I think smart people do say it depends because there's a lot of nuance to things.
And I had a similar question get asked me yesterday, and I get this question on social media a lot of there's so many different perspectives on the internet. So who am I supposed to listen to? And then the way I like to put it, just put a different frame on that. Instead of looking at it like that, look at it like we live in a really, really special time in human history where for the first time ever, you can get a blood test at a low cost delivered right to you. You don't even have to go to a third party like us. You can wear a biometric wearable. And you can, something that we've done with athletes ever since I started in the industry that we still do even with all this technology is subjectively, how are you feeling today? How's your energy levels? How was your sleep last night? How are things outside of your sport? So these are things people can do where they can take control. They can take, instead of viscerally responding to what you see, what you listen to on the
internet.
On the internet. Do people really do that?
This is Beyonce's internet. You know that.
Instead of doing that, then, find out what works for you.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So instead of going based on anecdotes or what other people are saying, find out for yourself. And use science and data to do that.
Yeah. And then like just I think you and I are a great example because it seems like your taste and how your body responds, and it seems like actually, in my experience, working with Caribbeans, they seem like their body responds to fruit better than like I would.
Yeah.
As an example, just as an example of one of a million different examples of how people respond differently.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's get into these questions. You ready for the smoke?
Ready for the smoke.
Okay. So we have some divisive questions on when it comes to like your space, which is the human performance in the biohacking space. First question was, do nootropics actually work to improve cognitive function?
Yes, and
Well, first of all, what is nootropics? Let me find
like the root of the word. So the root of the word means mind, director of mind.
Okay.
But it's supposed to be like a brain enhancement.
Okay.
So when I'm around the house and suddenly I start talking like a supercomputer, I just took a nootropic.
Ah, yeah. Okay, gotcha. And that's like a pill, typically?
Yeah, it could be like a pill. Adaptogen. There's some adaptogens that are considered nootropics.
Okay.
So like some mushrooms are considered nootropics. So they are helpful, but it's like the icing on the cake rather than the cake itself. So,
I like that.
If you're not getting good sleep, if you're not able to put your attention where you want, when you want, and do like these kind of foundational things, then a nootropic's not going to help. But if you are doing things like that, then I think that it is going to give you a benefit.
Yeah.
Modafinil is another really strong one.
What's modafinil? Is that a steroid?
It's a nootropic.
I'm sorry. I'm asking the questions people want to know.
They want to know. Is modafinil a steroid?
Okay. That's cool. That's very helpful. This one I found really interesting. Where do you draw the line between medical treatments and performance enhancement? So where does it, like when we talk about nootropics and like I talk about steroids all day, but where is it like, and even peptides, for example, where do you draw the line to where this isn't a performance enhancing drug and this is like something that can use to like be a medical treatment for people?
It depends.
There we go.
So what are they using them for?
I guess it would. Yeah, right.
Well, I guess so. There's like the moral perspective, and then, so we're talking like performance. Are we talking a lot like
we can
steroids?
talk about testosterone, like natural Well, it's not natural because it comes in a bottle,
right?
But the use of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
Like, is there anything where you like say this is too much, or this is like where I draw the line when it comes to like people supplementing what's already bioavailable to them?
For me, no. And that's so my background. I got a friend who played 10 years in the NFL, and he was on the juice for a bit. And that's part of why he was able to play 10 years in the NFL.
Okay.
So if you asked him whether he would do that again, he would say, hell yeah. Another one of my mentors was a part of Balco. That was the Barry Bonds thing. I don't know if you knew about.
Is that why his head's so big?
Huh? Yes. Well, Barry Bonds was on all the performance enhancement.
Yeah. He should be like, when they have those commercials for cigarettes, he would be like the commercials for like doing too much juice.
Barry Bonds was an amazing representation of someone who represented the id-gaf muscle.
How so?
The I don't give a fuck muscle.
Why?
Because he was one of the greatest players in baseball, and then he saw these guys better than him. So he's like, all right, well, I'm going to, whatever they're taking, I want to take twice as much, and because I want to do that better than them. And then I'll show how much of a better baseball player I am. And then he did exactly that. And then when he was on court, like on the witness stand, there was people like because baseball's so weird. Like, people are yelling because of records and things that he broke.
Okay.
So they're like yelling derogatory things at him, and he was like looking at the people and like kissing his biceps and stuff. His id-gaff muscle was in prime effect. Okay, so one of my mentors, who he wasn't wasn't with Barry Bonds, but he was doing some of this Balco stuff with track athletes, and he got busted for it. But is it immoral if everyone else that who's running the 100-meter dash is juiced up?
Yeah, there's actually talks about that, like where they're creating a separate category for like athletes who are on, like, I think we were talking about that, like performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah, they're creating their own games. I think it's great. That's a good deal.
What's your thought on that? That's like AI,
yeah,
like for humans.
Yeah, it's a good deal. We'll see if they run faster times, or if it's the same. And if it's the same, then we'll know.
Yeah.
But
that's gonna change the game. I feel like that's gonna be really fun to see.
But even on social media, it seems like, I don't know if this is still a thing. It seemed like it was a thing a little bit last year. But like, are you natty?
Yeah, natty or not.
Like, what is that supposed to? What's the underlying context of that question?
Well, I think like before, like people used to lie about whether they were on it or not. Like A-Rod was one, or like a lot of these people, especially in the bodybuilding. Liver King.
Shout out to Liver King.
They would lie about, whether they were natural or not.
I believe Liver King. He said it was because he put his hands on his feet and spread his butthole toward the sun every morning.
I believe that too.
The vitamin D gave him all the juice.
Yep.
So I was shocked.
Yeah. He's opening a new like spiritual awakening for sure.
Okay, so that provides more context to me. Okay, so the context of that question, natty or not, is because there were so many people saying
that they were natural.
That they're natural. Okay,
but they're not.
Okay.
But now everybody's kind of admitting to being like fucking juiced anyway. That's kind of like fun.
Yeah, well, that's a better way to look at it, I think. So to go back to your original question, I think you want to have awareness and know what you're doing, and pay attention to your body. And then if you do want to go deep into the performance enhancing realm and things like that, then again, with who my mentors and coaches have been, like, you're not going to get any judgment from me.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. So moving on. Do you truly believe that we can biohack our way into a longer lifespan? So we see people like Brian Johnson, like these people who are trying to like reverse age. You've been doing it yourself, but like, how true is that? Versus like, because some people may think it's kind of like when you're in school and you get a grade of like 100. Like everybody starts at 100, and then like if you don't do your homework, you get docked 10 points.
Yeah.
Do you believe that everyone has kind of an age, like a typical age that they die at? Let's say at 83, and then everything they do else in the world, like smoking a cigarette, kind of just takes away from that? Or do you think the opposite of you can add years to your life by doing X, Y, Z?
That's a great question. It depends.
It's number 2.
Have you seen there's like a website, it's called, I forgot what I think it's like the Rejuvenation Olympics. So people are competing to measure what their actual biological age is.
Okay.
And there's the interesting thing I found about it when I went on it is like Brian Johnson's up there. He might be number 1 currently in terms of what his actual age is compared to what
his biological age is.
Yeah, in terms of they use methylation testing to do it. But they have people on there where it's all kinds of people who are doing different stuff. They're not doing all the different things that he's doing. So what's the highest age now? I think it's like 122 or something like that. So it seems like with how much attention and effort people are putting into this space, there will be more and more people that get to that age. But at this time, it's hard. The technology isn't there yet.
So you think that we can add years to our life?
Yeah, I think we can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we get into the weeds a little bit, I think that if we take care of our body, specifically our cells
Mm-hmm.
and our mitochondria, which are like the powerhouses within our cells,
Mm-hmm.
the more we do that, then I feel like doing that adds years to the life. What about you? What do you think?
You know, that's a tough one for me. I mean, I still know very little, so. I mean, I'm open to both ideas of like, you know, that one you can add time by like eating the right things and like, you know, having good cell turnover and all that stuff, and science has had us living a lot longer. And then there's some people is like, well, when your time is your time.
Yeah, I think what comes to mind too is like this use it or lose it idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I would try and use it as far as you can. Because like there's people in their 60s who'll say, I can't lift weights anymore. I'm too weak. Well, you can't lift weights because you don't lift weights.
Yes.
You know? So things like
You
that.
lazy bum.
You lazy bum. Loser. Vegans must die and old people are losers.
Yes.
Follow me. Follow me. It's genius.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
transgender will live the longest. Sorry, it's this drink.
It's wild. It might be that smoked salt. Man. I
It
don't
might be
know.
that smoked salt. But so I think overall, the principle I would have on that I try to live by is like finding this balance. So like even going with the last question of what can I do to improve my performance? Like there's this famous study that they asked people who were trying to win the Olympics, would you, in exchange for a gold medal, would you die in 10 years? And 50% said they would. So that's like a podcast in itself, but it's like finding a balance of, okay, how much can I improve my performance today? While also, how can I set myself up to have the opportunity to live a really long time while also not
So the question
putting
was,
too much effort into, like, I'm not going to leave my house or my hyperbaric chamber because it's going to hurt my cells. You know?
yeah, you know, that's crazy because I can totally go one of two ways. And I go in extremes of like, I'm not going to like leave my house because it's fucking, you know, everybody's out there eating nonsense outside and the food is killing us. And, you know, I don't want to eat anything that's not homegrown or whatever. And then the total opposite of like, whatever. But speaking of like docking years off our life, you recently asked about alcohol. So there was a study of like people in, what do they call, like blue zones?
Yes.
And some of the things that they've done were actually like, they drank alcohol.
Yes.
Which was a lot different in terms of the alcohol we're served in America.
Yes.
But there was a couple of other things that like aided in like long life, and they all had those in commons. But like, what's your thoughts on alcohol? I'm gonna ask you again.
Yeah. So there is one blue zone
I think it's like Italy.
No, one blue zone in the United States, Loma Linda, which is outside L.A., and they're all vegan. So everything I said about vegetarians and vegans earlier, it was a lie. I'm sorry. Teach me.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then they do a lot of stuff that helps them. So, again, it's like it goes too far one or the other, like each way, it goes too far. So there are some health consequences to alcohol. But, you know, if what these people are doing is they're having like a glass of wine with dinner while socializing.
Right. And walking.
Yeah. And like social connection has been a very high correlator with longevity.
Interesting.
So doing things like that.
Yeah.
And then they're also doing other stuff that, you know, helps them live longer, that potentially maybe overcomes the alcohol.
Yeah.
Or maybe the alcohol doesn't do that much in terms of what they're doing. Like, That's very hard to measure. It depends.
Right. Right. Yeah, for sure.
But what's the big? I'm trying to figure because I'll see titles of it on social media, but I don't look at it. But like, what's the thing that people talk about alcohol? Like
that it's a neurotoxin.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a drug. So is weed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really interesting like topic because it leans into like, you know, is it bad overall for you? Is like one sip of alcohol terrible for you? Or is this just like something like when it comes into the health space that's just too expensive for your body because your liver has to filter it and all that stuff?
So again, it depends because there's like a certain percentage of people. I don't know if you saw them growing up, but they could drink an extraordinary amount of alcohol.
Yeah, and
they're fine.
Yeah.
They're still, I don't know, like how that's going to look like in terms of longevity, but they're going to feel different after 16 beers than the average person that doesn't have that genetic background.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's a health benefit, and then I personally don't drink because there's other things that I like that make me feel good.
What are those things?
This is PG-13 podcast.
Tell me about those things.
Well, and I like being. I don't like not being in control. So I feel like alcohol, like you lose a bit of the.
Do you think most CEOs have control issues? That's pretty divisive. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. I think it's a good thing for the majority.
Okay. And what do you think? Like for some people who feel like they need alcohol to lower their like nervous system, which studies have shown that like when it comes to anxiety and stuff, alcohol actually increases anxiety.
Yeah. What is a social lubricant?
Yeah.
And people have extreme anxiety now.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Probably because of social media.
Yeah. So what do you think are some things like that combat that?
Anxiety?
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff that can combat that.
Well, you do a lot of the breath work.
Breath work?
I did that earlier.
Yeah? That's awesome. So I think like to start with a simple thing that people can do is like, because I get asked frequently, like, what are simple things that work for everybody? Because again, it's a lot of the stuff of what we, in terms of protocols that we provide for people are specific, but doing like meditation or breath work or prayer in the morning before you expose yourself to your phone or your computer or things like that is a great way to start to take control and reduce anxiety. Time away from your phone, I think, reduces anxiety. Making sure you get the right amount of sleep, exercise, nutrition. Nutrition is people talk about the mind-gut connection, the gut-brain connection, but it's still, I think, under prioritized. Like if you feel anxious, if I feel anxious, like one of the first things I'm going to do is what did I eat and what am I going to eat? Because there's 100 million neurons in our stomach.
That's insightful.
Yeah. So if you want to feel less anxiety, I would get your nutrition right.
I love that.
Yeah. There's a lot of things you could do.
That's great. All right. One more for this.
And having awareness of why am I feeling this way?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because I think now a lot of anxiety too is like people they have less reps communicating with people in person and things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So they call themselves like introverts. But maybe you just have anxiety, like you're just not,
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of going into psychology, so it's kind of getting sidetracked a little bit, but Carl Jung's the guy who started with extrovert and introvert. He's actually the one that came up with that. And he didn't define introverts as how most people look at introverts. Like, I lose energy when I'm around people and things like that.
How does he divide it?
He kind of looked at it like everyone should try and work toward being an extrovert. And I think what he was saying, I think he didn't say, what I've seen with him, again, I'm not a psychology expert, especially not Carl Jung, but what you just, because these words are thrown around so often, I have a foundational knowledge on it. And I think his thought was, you want to be able to comfortable to be able to be out in space with people and crowds and things like that.
Yeah. And do you find that, like, with society now, people are becoming more anxious, more introverted, more dependent on alcohol? And what do you think are some of the things that, like, contribute to that?
I think social media is a huge one.
Okay.
Because I think dopamine management is something that's not talked about. Like, we had a couple NBA guys last year, and they talked about it with the coach I was working with, and then at the same time, the NBA commissioner came out and just said, it's crazy how many NBA players are mentally unstable and depressed.
Yeah, they be doing some weird shit.
And he talked about what they're doing on the phone, and the guys we saw were on their phone all the time too. But they kind of got life by the balls. You know what I mean? Like, they got money, they're young, they're in shape, ideally they're doing what they love, and they're depressed. So what about fucking average Joe up the street who's having a hard time paying his bills, overweight, and he's doing the same thing with his phone. So I think that's probably the biggest one. That and food.
Yeah. That's huge. So dial in your social media and your food.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Dopamine management.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of a cyborg implant?
No, but I'm intrigued.
So it's an implant used. There have been talks about this. You can think of like Neuralink with Elon Musk, which has started like their first like human trials and stuff. And this is more for people who are like disabled and like need an extra boost to like communicate and do things. But there's talks of having cyborg implants for athletics. So I don't know what exactly that would look like. But if there was some sort of, you have an idea, I see the gears turning.
I was thinking like some kind of fins or something on a swimmer. Or like a big hammer fist on a fighter.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Do you think that's potentially going too far, or do you think that's the future of athletics? Because we now can see parts of like steroids and human performance drugs entering its way into athletics, which I'm not against. But like, what do you think of like the added like implants? Or like chips in the brain or something like that?
Well, what do you think about men competing in women's sports? And how different is this than that?
Oh, I feel like that's totally different.
It is?
Yeah. I feel like
Okay,
it's totally
why?
different. Because I feel like it's two different genders. Like,
But what about like advantage?
we're just fundamentally like different.
So you're saying it'd be more of an advantage with the cyborg?
Yeah. Like
Rather-
I wouldn't put a man and a woman, even if that man identifies as a woman, I wouldn't put them together. Because unless you drug him enough to have a woman's hormones, then it's still an equal. And even then,
that's
on
happening
average,
right now.
They're taller. So if
And
they're
they're-
fighting, they have more reach.
Yeah.
So, and they can't help that.
Yeah, and they have much higher testosterone.
Yeah. So what's happening right now? They're reducing their hormones?
No, but just men are competing in women's
Women's.
sports. So how different it would be? I guess I say that in context. So so adding the cyborgs to the mix, you might as fucking well. I mean, if we're
Oh, you said if we're going in on that, then we might as well go all the way in.
might as well go all the way in.
Oh, okay. Extremist, I see.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking. I guess my brain goes to entertainment value and what this could look like, and it could look pretty funny.
You know, I want to give me a second to like figure out an example of like the cyborg implant.
For the body,
Yeah.
I mean, so like, okay, so all joking aside, the reason most people love sports is because it's not rigged, right? Like it's not reality TV. It's not scripted.
Okay.
So that's why sports are becoming, like watching them on TV is becoming more and more popular, is because it's as less and less stuff gets scripted or unscripted, excuse me. So there's a beautiful purity to that. But if shit's already getting weird, then why not let it get weird? You know?
Yeah, because people watch sports for entertainment. Even though it's not reality TV, it's
Yeah, they watch it for entertainment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why we have like WWE. Yeah, so some examples of this would be like bionic limbs for increased strength and speed, neural implants for improved cognitive function, exoskeletons for enhancing mobility, and electronic implants to monitor and optimize performance.
Exoskeletons
Yeah.
for improving mobility?
Yeah. Matt would be interested in that.
Yeah. That sounds cool.
Yeah, we'll have to talk more about this on the next one when I do a little bit more due diligence.
Yeah.
But this is just something that I figured I'd bring up. So let's close this out. Do you want one more question or just?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Okay. I like this one. So, do you think biohacking is a fad or a sustainable approach to wellness?
Dun, dun, dun. It depends.
It depends. Do you think it's in? Because biohacking has been here recent years.
Yeah.
Do you think it's here to stay, or do you think it's going to come and leave in its wave?
I mean, how do you define biohacking, right? I walk the dog every day in bare feet. Is that biohacking? Some people would say that's biohacking.
Okay.
Some people would say you're just walking your dog. California hippie, you're not wearing shoes.
Okay.
So I think it's going to become more and more prevalent because people are they're always looking for shortcuts. They're always looking for tools. So if, they say red light's going to give you all this energy. Red light's going to improve your cognitive function. Red light's going to make you feel better about life. Then people are going to try it. So I think it's sustainable. But at the same time, this is something we talked about yesterday, is you got to know what you want and what your specific goals are, and then do what works for you when it comes to the biohacking stuff.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, cold plunge is all the rage right now.
Yeah.
For, like, recovery. But there's a lot of people who don't like water like that. So maybe there's other things that they can do other than cold plunge.
Yeah.
Or I like going in the ocean. So if I'm going in the ocean, which is not going to give me the...
Why do people not like water? That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, just maybe not like water as like a recovery tool, Like there's other stuff you could do than getting in an ice bath. But yeah, so I like going in the ocean. I like taking advantage of going in the ocean every day. I'm not going to get the same benefits that I get from in terms of specific benefits as I would in taking an ice bath because the water's not as cold. But I get benefits from it, and it seems redundant for me to do that and take ice baths. But the reason I just bring it up in context with all this biohacking stuff and like how you spend your time and how much time should be spent with work and balance and health and biohacking and all that is look at all the best organizations in sports, MLB, college football, NFL, NBA. They all have one thing in common. They know exactly what they want. Then they spread that message amongst the entire staff, which communicates to the players. And then every single thing that they do, is this helping us get toward what we want? If it's not helping us, we're not going to do it. So I think a high-performing, peak performance approach would be to look at biohacking the same way of what specifically am I trying to do? And then based on that, what techniques are going to help me get there?
I love that. Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
We'll end on that.
Ooh.
I love vegans.
One more question.
One more question?
In terms of biohacking and, supplements and things like that, where's the easiest place for people to find resources in that area that are looking to you for answers?
SuperAthlete Life.
Mm.
We have the podcast on there.
Mm-hmm.
Also we have supplements on there. And then we have an opportunity to get blood work on there so you can know what supplements work best for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a ton of articles on there as well.
Yeah. Killer. I love the articles and the subs. I love it. Thank you for having me. And see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.